Is bipolar disorder genetic, or is it just a roll of the dice? The reason why that's such an excellent question is that genetics play a huge role in the cause or risk factors of developing the illness. Of course, there's other factors, but research is now suggesting that up to 80% of all bipolar cases involve a genetic component. 80% seemed a little high to me, so I decided to test that number. I posted a survey in our community section asking people if mental illness runs in their family. With over 2,000 votes, a whopping 88% said yes. Let me know in the comments if it runs in your family. I'll even post a comment myself. Here's a breakdown of what we know. If you put 100 people in a room, around 2 or 3 of them will have bipolar, so 2 to 3% of the global population live with it. Here's where it gets intense. If one parent has bipolar disorder, there's a 10 to 25% chance their children will develop the illness. If both parents have it, that jumps up to around 40 to 70%. If one sibling has bipolar, the risk is around 10 to 15%, unless it's an identical twin. Then it jumps back up to around 40 to 70%. Now, sometimes there are trailblazers, people with bipolar disorder who don't have any family history of the illness at all. And on the flip side, not everyone with a genetic predisposition will develop it themselves. Genes play a big role, but they aren't the whole story. I know a lot of people worry about having children if bipolar runs in the family. I actually made a video that talks about things to consider. I'll include a link on screen if you want to watch that next. I mentioned other risk factors earlier. I want to keep this video about genetics, but re-emphasize that bipolar can be caused by a number of things. In fact, the exact cause is still unknown, but it's believed to involve a combination of genetics, brain differences, and environmental factors. Things like stress, trauma, and certain lifestyle choices can interact with our genetic predisposition and potentially trigger the onset of bipolar disorder. In other words, even if you have the genetic risk factors, you might not necessarily develop the illness until certain environmental factors are present. Going back to genetics, you might be wondering, is there a specific bipolar gene that's responsible for everything we go through? I wish it were that easy. Bipolar is what we call polygenic, meaning there isn't one single bipolar gene to blame. Scientists have identified hundreds, if not thousands, of genes that might be associated with the risk of developing the illness. These genes are related to things like neurotransmitters, circadian rhythm, and brain development. It's still a big genetic puzzle, but we're slowly putting the pieces together. Speaking of pieces, a recent large-scale study led to the discovery of what's being called the strongest risk factor for bipolar disorder to date. It's a gene called AKAP11 or ACAP11, and don't worry, you aren't going to be tested on this later. Variations of this specific gene appear to increase the risk of having bipolar disorder. It's gotten us a tiny bit closer to figuring out what causes the illness. Once we know what causes it, we can work on correcting it. The study showed that ACAP11 might influence pathways in the brain related to mood regulation, and as we know, bipolar is a mood disorder. It's worth a Google search if you want to know more about the discovery. This video wouldn't be complete without mentioning genetic testing. However, the tests that are available right now are mostly used for research. They aren't common in regular doctor's offices or clinics. I also have some legit concerns when it comes to privacy. There's a real worry that genetic information could be used unfairly by employers or insurance companies. Genetic data is incredibly sensitive and personal. If it gets into the wrong hands or is used without our consent, it could lead to some serious problems. Despite the obvious concerns, genetic testing does have the potential to help people with bipolar disorder. It could help doctors in the future to customize treatments that fit to someone's unique genetic profile. It could make treatments more effective with less side effects. Before it comes up in the comments, I know I didn't mention DNA testing for medications. It's also called pharmacogenetic testing. That's a whole different topic for another video. Hey, if you're new here to Polar Warriors, a very warm welcome. And to all of the awesome people who have already subscribed, I appreciate you very much. Polar Warriors is completely viewer supported, and we need your help to keep a good thing going. Grab yourself a t-shirt or a hoodie in our new YouTube store, or join us on Patreon for some really cool perks. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back here soon with more Polar Warrior videos. Stay well.